Welcome back. Well, over 12 million people around the world do not know where their next meal is going to come from. In South Africa alone, over 2 million households experience hunger in 2021. The sad reality, though, is that over 10 million tons of food is wasted in the country while people actually go to bed hungry. Now, SA Harvest is intervening to upskill farmers and food entrepreneurs. So as we mark World Hunger Day, let's find out exactly what is being done from SA Harvest. Conn. Ali, thank you so much for your time. A very good morning to you and welcome to the South African Morning. Let's talk a little bit about some of these realities that we have to contend with as a country. You know, I was reading somewhere, actually, another article, I think it was in the Daily Maverick, saying that about 20 million people go to bed hungry every night in the country, and yet tons of food gets wasted or thrown out. How then do we start even finding a correlations or navigating that kind of a sad reality? Why waste food if people need the food?
It's Thank you so much for having me. That's why SA Harvest exists. Food waste makes absolutely no sense, particularly, especially the amount that is wasted. 10 million tons is estimated to be about, if you want to visualize that, if you look at the Johannesburg Stadium, it seats about 60,000 people. You can fill the Joburg Stadium 205 times with the amount of food that's thrown away in South Africa annually. Another crazy statistic is that the value of that food, which has grown, the input costs of the farmers and the logistics and all sorts that go into that amount of food which is thrown away, is estimated to be about 67 billion rand. So we're literally throwing 67 billion rands worth of food away. At the same time, as you've quite rightly said, 26%, a quarter of our country, is food insecure. They go to bed hungry every single night. And on top of that, another 28% are on the border. They are not necessarily starving, but they are also on the brink of hunger. And it's a huge, huge issue. And that's what we at SA Harvest are working to solve by rescuing food before it goes to waste and diverting that food to vulnerable communities around the country that need it so desperately. We started end of 2019, October 2019, founded by our formidable CEO, Alan Brody. And in the months since then, it's been about 43 months, not that long at all. We, as just an independent organization, have managed to rescue 12.5 million kilograms of food. And with that, we've distributed about 43 million meals to vulnerable communities around the country.
Yeah. Before we go into exactly how is it that you're managing this, I mean, it's quite, it's a logistical, sophisticated logistical kind of practice that you have to indulge in, because you also have to speak to farmers, entrepreneurs, food entrepreneurs and the like. But again, I just want to labor here in terms of exactly what is stopping, you know, other companies from following suit as to what you are doing as SA Harvest to be able to preserve food before it goes to waste, instead of chucking it down the drain or throwing it away in the trash bin, actually preserving it, storing it, and then giving it away to families who cannot afford. I rack my brain, and I'm laboring on this point a little bit, Ali, because I can't seem to understand why is it that people within the food space, knowing very well how food insecure South Africa is, would rather choose to throw away 67 billion rand worth of food instead of feeding the very sick. The best way to solve hunger in this country is just by feeding people. It should be a no-brainer at this point.
It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer. But, you know, I mean, it's multifaceted, this problem, where it arose. I'm going to keep this very brief because it is quite a deep topic. But during apartheid, there were mad sanctions against the country. Of course there were. And so everything was tightly regulated within the South African agricultural space. Whatever farmers were buying seeds for was regulated, how much they were selling their produce to retailers for was regulated, to consumers all regulated. New government, wonderful that the new government came into power, and they in '96, it's known as the Marketing Agricultural Products Act of 1996. And in that, the government well-intentioned, but they signed away their right to involve themselves in the food space, assuming that the free market would regulate itself. That hasn't been the case. For example, I mean, I'm just going to dive into a couple of statistics. Farmers, for example, the margins that they were making on milk at a point was sorry. I'm going all over the place here. The gist of it is that companies cannot afford to, or farmers especially cannot afford to move this food. Farmers are cash strapped at the moment because retailers in the agricultural space have full power within the space. They are monopolizing the space. They're playing farmers off each other. And for that reason, everyone looks at the farmers and says, guys, why are you throwing all this food away? They don't have the money if they are to distribute that themselves to communities, they need to pay for transport. They need to pay for manpower. Those logistics would be their own. And so now, because this is now going to drop off food at communities, they then can't carry on with their normal operations.
Yeah.
And so farmers are really hard hit, and they get the brunt of the blame because in South Africa, so in the northern hemisphere, first world countries, the vast majority of food that goes to waste is at consumer level. In South Africa, only about 5% of all food waste happens at consumer level. The vast majority is at farming and retail and wholesale level. And so that is where SA Harvest has stepped in. And the vast majority of the food that we are able to intercept is from farmers, because we are trying to help out the farming industry. We need to upskill small-scale farmers. We need to give the farmers, small-scale to large-scale, the support that they need, because they're not getting it from government. They're not getting it from the retailers. And yeah.
I completely get you.
Really
It's a very
thing
difficult conversation, Ali, that we are having this morning, simply because of the different intricacies that are involved in it. I mean, you're speaking here about how is it that, you know, we can actually preserve food, especially at that farming level, before it even gets to the consumer level as well. And my only hope is that other companies are able to follow suit as what SA Harvest is doing. And honestly, kudos to you. Kudos to SA Harvest for being able to preserve some of this food and obviously repurpose it and send it back to the communities where, as I said, hunger is at an exorbitant level. Millions of people are going to bed hungry. But we have to leave it there for this morning. Much appreciated for your time. Ali Conn there is the Chief Innovation Officer of SA Harvest, giving us the latest in terms of exactly how they're preserving food and making sure that the food that they preserve gets to the most vulnerable. Good job indeed.